It's 18 minutes, in fact, past 12 now. Let's catch up with talks due to begin between Ukraine and Russia in Abu Dhabi, coordinated by the United States. Ukraine is coming under pressure from Washington to make some concessions, including handing over unconquered territory in the eastern Donbass region. Well, Andrew Levi is a former senior British diplomat who was posted to Moscow. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
Andrew, do you think that these talks will make any more progress? That the same sort of sticking points seem to come up time and time again with no resolution?
I don't think they will. Of course, you never know. A huge amount of pressure is being put on Ukraine by the Trump administration. But the fundamental position seems to be that Putin doesn't want to stop, or if he does want to stop, it's only to get a breathing space to regather strength and to then carry on invading later. And the Ukrainians are in an absolutely impossible position, having been invaded in a war of aggression which started in its full-scale form in February 2022, but in fact started in 2014 and was preceded by many years of attempts to undermine Ukraine's democracy and its economic stability. So they're fighting a defensive war, and they're being hit by, I think it was Monday night, 60 or 70 missiles, 450 drones, knocking out the electricity infrastructure in key cities when temperatures are at -20. That's the kind of war that's going on. And if they gave up territory that hasn't been gained by the Russians, who are kind of stuck in terms of their ground forces, what they'd be giving up is strategic territory that would allow the Russians much more easily to invade later.
Yeah, it really is a case, it seems, of who can grind the other down first, really.
I think it's right that neither side is likely to stop. The Ukrainians are not likely to stop defending themselves, and the Russians are not likely to stop their aggression unless they are knocked out. Now, knocked out, isn't a sort of dramatic thing on the battlefield necessarily. It could be a collapse of the regime in Moscow, for example. It's much more fragile than it seems, even though President Putin's been around for 26 years as president. So various developments can cause a knockout blow, but at the moment, it doesn't look like that is a likely scenario in the immediate future.
But the Kremlin seems to be, determined in its position that Ukraine must give up territory. Ukraine is sort of, saying that it is not going to. How do you resolve this if Moscow seems to be unwilling to cooperate on this front or to compromise at all? It's give up. There seems to be no compromise on that front.
Well, I think the message to all of us in Europe and to the US administration is that it's a choice for us as to whether Ukraine is enabled with help, because they need help, to defeat Russia or not. It's perfectly within the capabilities of a well-resourced Ukraine to defeat the Russian forces and drive them back. But that doesn't seem to be the policy that is being pursued either by Europe, and that includes the UK, of course, in this context, not just geographically, but politically and militarily, if you like, in terms of providing weapons and so on. And it certainly doesn't seem to be the policy of the Trump administration, for reasons which I think really we can only speculate about.
And so do you think that there is any, this is really down to Europe then, if it's going to keep Ukraine going in terms of fighting the war, it looks as if that will fall to Europe, not the US.
Yeah, I think one way of looking at these talks, to put that in the context of what's going on in the UAE right now, is that in a way Europe, which isn't present directly at the talks, and Ukraine and Russia, in their own different ways, are playing along with President Trump, who is saying he wants peace and say he has his motivations, which we can only speculate about. Russia doesn't want to stop. for the reasons I mentioned earlier. Europe doesn't want Ukraine to stop defending itself. Ukraine doesn't want to stop defending itself for fairly obvious reasons. And so to avoid offending President Trump, people are playing along with these talks, but it doesn't look like there's a serious prospect of something major coming out of them.
Andrew Levi, thank you very much for joining me. Andrew Levi, former senior British diplomat who was posted to Moscow there.